How are you?
Man, how are you doing, buddy?
Good.
So what can I do for you?
Well, you can let me put up a sign on your back fence.
Well, sure, no problem.
That'd be great, yeah.
It's a typical day on the campaign trail in the Winnipeg riding of Elmwood-Transcona, and Conservative incumbent Lawrence Tote is doing what all candidates must, getting up close and personal.
How are you? Boy, she's all smiles, isn't she? So, fantastic. Really appreciate that. Yes. Would you allow me to put a sign up front here also, sir? Yeah? Yeah. That would be fantastic. Thanks so much.
This particular neighborhood is one that's very friendly to Tote.
Is there somebody there that wants to see me?
What are you guys going on?
Hey, sir.
Good afternoon. How nice to see you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing terrifically.
Good stuff. Excellent. Hey, thanks for the sign.
You're very welcome.
Me. Yeah.
So I'm happy to have it.
Yeah.
Proud to have you as a representative.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Securing that kind of support is vital. In 2011, Tote won this seat by just 300 votes.
Were you very surprised by that win?
No, I wasn't overly surprised by the win. I can be honest, as we were out and about knocking on doors during that campaign, we had a really good sense that, we were in the battle, and we knew it was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be tight. So, we worked hard right to the very, very end of the campaign. And no, but I wasn't surprised by the result. I've always said that, I don't do anything half-hearted. And when I got involved 5 years ago, starting into the campaign part of it, I put my heart and soul into it and worked hard for the community. And so, no, I wasn't surprised by that.
But it was certainly surprising to many more. Elmwood-Transcona, or one of its various forms, had been an NDP stronghold for decades. This working-class riding is a diverse mixture of mid- to low-income families. The CN shops are located here, and there's a lot of industry. Some areas are very old and in need of care, while some of the newer areas are much more upscale.
This is a very, very mixed riding. I mean, you get from, the corner of Elmwood, which is, verging on almost you could always say almost an inner city type of neighborhood, to the outskirts and the outlying areas where, like you say, you might have a little more upscale type of housing. But there's been so much change in this riding. There's so much development and so much growth in the riding. It's, just in the last 4 years, if I look at all the new houses that have gone into this riding, it's quite an amazing change.
There are large projects like the Plessis Underpass, which has been plagued with delays, a contentious issue in the riding. And it's also home to many immigrants as well as a lot of small businesses. But what makes this riding really interesting is that this is where Bill Blakey held sway as its NDP Member of Parliament for nearly 30 years. Now the Blakey name is back. Bill's son Daniel is running for the NDP and is determined to reclaim the riding.
I think it's very important. It's important for me personally, obviously, because I want a representative in Parliament that speaks to the kind of values that I think should inform government. But it's important for the NDP too. I think this is one of those seats that if we're going to win government, and we're the closest to that we've ever been. I think more and more Canadians are seeing us as the alternative to Stephen Harper. This is one of those seats that I think it's important for us to win, to get those extra seats to be able to have a government.
How important is the Blakey name in this riding?
Well, it's very important. I would imagine that everyone in that constituency knows who the NDP candidate's father is, and I'd imagine they have a very positive impression of him given his long tenure as an MP in that constituency. So that's going to be an important local factor in Elmwood-Transcona. Put it together with a strong national campaign, which is what we seem to be seeing from the NDP up until this point, and what you have is a recipe for an NDP victory in that riding.
The reasons why it went Conservative in the last election vary. Some believe vote splitting caused a Conservative win, but there are other theories.
I think it happened because, there's a bit of a demographic shift in the riding. There's a change with a lot of the new development. That's part of it. But I think the other part of it, even when you go into some of the older areas of the riding, is people, they started to realize that it was a long time, 30-plus years of being represented, and they started to ask, so what did we get for federal support over those 30 years? And it really wasn't there. So I think people said, they wanted to have a representative that was on the government side and could, deliver for them what they wanted to have in the riding. And I think we've seen a lot of that happening.
I'm running into people that say, you know what, I bought the argument last time about needing a majority government, and I was tired of all those minority parliaments, and I thought, you know what, maybe it's just time to try having a change and get a majority government and put Canada back on track. But what people are finding who voted that way last time is that that's not what happened. Canada didn't get back on track, and they don't like a lot of the contraction of service that they've seen.
And it turns out that in 2011, the Conservatives did very well at the national level. In fact, they probably hit their kind of high water mark.
Coop says that while Todt was able to capitalize on the Conservative momentum, it may not happen this time around.
But even in a national election, which the Conservatives did very, very well, he only won that by just a hair over his NDP competitors. So it kind of demonstrates that while the Conservatives were able to take this, it is still an NDP seat, essentially, in terms of its fundamentals.
It's something the Conservatives know very well.
Well, I'm just going to ask our outstanding candidates to rise once again and join me in giving a big hand that says we're going to work for them and make sure that on October the 19th, we paint Winnipeg bright Conservative blue.
Having Blaikie as an opponent isn't lost on Lawrence Todt.
Well, look, I'm fairly optimistic that we're going to win this seat again. But I'm not naive either. I know what it's going to take. It's going to take a lot of hard work, just as we had to do in 2011.
And if he can't be carried along by the national campaign, he's going to have to fight for his life in the riding, and it's going to be a tough fight, I think.
But Blaikie isn't taking anything for granted either. Blaikie's sister Rebecca ran for office in another Winnipeg riding in 2011. She lost by just 44 votes, and Blaikie is working hard, not simply riding on the family name. He's meeting as many people as he can.
Hi, how are you? I'm Daniel Blaikie. I'm running to be the Member of Parliament for the area. What are some of the issues that are key issues for you guys in the election?
Well, I think the pension is really the thing that I'm worried about. Because I just started drawing Canada Pension this year. I hope it's going to be here for another few years. But
absolutely. And what kinds of issues are you following closely?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for us is I like daycare. I mean, I think that's a big thing. I mean, I'm not quite a senior yet, so seniors issues aren't as prevalent on my mind, but I think daycare especially is a big thing.
Oh, and it's an issue for a lot of people. It's something that my wife and I are going through right now.
I have so
We've
many
got a 2.5-year-old son, and and it's quite a common problem.
Daniel Blaikie, of course, is not his father. He's young. What kind of a candidate is Daniel Blaikie?
He's certainly not a neophyte to politics. He has been involved, if not in formal politics. In fact, he has been involved in the NDP for a while, but he's also been involved in organizing in terms of labor and unions in Winnipeg. So he's not new to public engagement or to politics.
After 4 years, neither is Todt.
Our Prime Minister understands that small businesses are the backbone of the Canadian economy.
Sure does.
Small businesses in my riding of Elmwood-Transcona know that the Conservative Party is the only party in this House that supports them.
As a backbencher, has it been difficult to make your mark?
There's certain areas where you can make a bigger mark than in other areas. So you got to look at what things are important for you. And I've been able to be a big support for some of the work that we have on our homelessness programs, the homelessness partnering strategy. To me, support of those people is very important, and I do a lot of work in that front. I participate yearly in the CEO Sleepout here in Winnipeg to make sure we're drawing attention to the cause, raising some funds, and helping people get that opportunity to find that job. So can I count on your support in October, sir? Yeah? All right. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, you have yourself a really nice day. Take care. There's a lot of different issues out there, but ultimately for the vast majority of people, whether it's their number one issue or their number 2 or number 3 issue, but their ability to manage their own finances is a huge issue that I hear. People, they want governments out of their pockets.
As his representative for 4 years, what do you think the people in this riding would say about you?
I would think most, for the most part, they would say I've been out there, I've been working hard, I've been trying to bring things into my community that we necessarily haven't had federal support on before. I'm very involved with whatever organization is out there. If they invite me to come to an event, I try to make it. You can't make it to everything, but I really try to get out there and support them and be there as they're, organizing events. So I think a lot of people would say they see me a lot, that I'm out there a lot.
But some things have been too far out there. Tote sent out this survey on terrorism to gain support for the Conservatives' C-51 anti-terrorism legislation. The mail-out asked constituents to choose from the following. I agree with my MP Lawrence Tote. We must take additional action to protect Canada from terrorism. Or, I disagree. Terrorists are victims too. Tote was roundly criticized and ridiculed.
How did that get sent out?
Well, look, I mean, you know, you send out hundreds of pieces over the course of a term. You're keeping your people in your riding informed of different programs, different things that are happening. And, you know, you make a communication error that you maybe push the envelope one time and all that time. And I think most people recognize that. They'll see almost, other than that piece, almost anything I've sent out over my 4.5 years has been very positive, just talking about, you know, what's happening in the community, support for the community. So you have one issue where you basically, you look back on it and you say, you know, if you had a do-over, would you maybe do it differently? But hey, that's life, right?
Tote wants to concentrate instead on more positive public outcomes, like this baseball diamond that received $45,000 of federal funding for upgrades.
This has really been a big help in being able to look after the field and get in such good shape, and it is in pretty good shape.
It's in pretty nice shape, that's for sure.
Our plans are to make it state-of-the-art and make it available to the community.
Just prior to the election call, Tote's riding received more than $500,000 in federal funding.
People are not dummies. They know what's happening. When governments spend a lot of money up in the lead up to an election campaign, they know what's happening. They know that the government is making an effort to buy their votes. But it's also nice to have projects funded in your constituencies.
There's all kinds of different areas where there's been funding coming in that is supporting, whether it be business or individuals, and of course community centers. And we've done a lot of work with all the different community centers in the riding to support them in the work that they're doing, because it's important that we have places for our young people.
Blakey is also very concerned with community. This park might have been turned into a strip mall, but was saved by community initiatives.
I think this is a better use of the space, and it's appreciated a lot.
So this is the kind of thing that you're going to be working for?
Yeah.
More of these kinds of spaces?
Yeah, and I think when you have a community site like that that's being well used and that people obviously care a lot about, I think that's the kind of concern that government should be listening to. And the question that's being asked should be, how do we work with people to maintain these kinds of spaces? Because they serve a lot of useful purposes, including keeping kids out of trouble.
So here we are in the heart of Transcona. What am I looking at in the background?
This is the CN shops, and you know, at one time the CN was by far and away the largest employer in Transcona, and really kind of Transcona's reason for being. So that's changed over the years. There's still a lot of people that work at CN, and you don't have to go far back up the generational ladder to find you know, people in their families have people that worked at the CN. And Transcona is an example of a community that was a good place to grow up and a good place to live, in part because so many people had a good-paying, stable job with those kinds of benefits. So when we talk about policies in the federal government, when we talk about creating good jobs, it's those kinds of jobs that we're talking about wanting to create.
What are people saying about employment and security and that kind of thing?
Well, we hear a lot about pensions, so that's on the side of people maybe wanting to leave work and finding that they don't have the income to be able to do that because they never had the company pension, for example, and the CPP is not enough.
Blakey also hears about the provincial NDP in Manitoba, which is an unpopular government.
On the doorstep, I've actually found that it's not having the effect that we had feared it might. People know who Stephen Harper is. They know what Stephen Harper's track record is in government, and they're not pleased with that. So there are people who are bringing up the provincial NDP, but they're also quick to bring up Stephen Harper and what's happened with Harper.
At the time of this report, it had just been announced that Canada was in a technical recession. The candidates have different ways of looking at it.
You know, you can get into the technical recession. You look at the real numbers comparative to 2009. Like you say, it's very technical. We also look at the numbers from June, where we actually had a growth where was not predicted to happen. And in fact, the actual technical recession numbers in the second quarter were 50% of what the prediction would be. They were. So actually, you know, if you look forward from June, the potential for growth is very positive. You know, when I talk to businesses in the riding, they're very encouraged. They believe that their growth and expansion will definitely be happening over the next 6 to 12 months, and they have a very optimistic outlook.
It's Harper himself who made promises about the economy and promised Canadians that he could fix what was wrong with the economy. 10 years of his policies have not done that. If someone's going to wear this politically, I think it's obvious who it's going to be. But we've already been out there making that case, and we've already been out there presenting our plan to help turn things around. So it's another thing that's going to be on the minds of Canadians, and as far as I'm concerned, another reason why they should be looking at voting NDP.
But there's another player in this riding. The Liberals are running Andrea Richardson-Lipon, a first-time candidate who's trying to make her mark in Elmwood-Transcona. Tell me about your motivations for running for office. What made you throw your hat in now?
The main thing is that I have a young daughter who's 3.5, and I'm not happy with the way Canada is sort of headed, and I'm working middle-class mother, and I have all the same sort of challenges that most people have, and, I get together with friends and family, and we're always, talking about this, and if I could change things, I would do this, and so I got presented this opportunity, and so it was my chance to show that you don't need a political pedigree to be able to make change.
Just before heading out to an event, Richardson-Lipon's team is getting a pep talk from one of her organizers.
Andrea's been rising ever since the election has been called. Okay, yeah. The latest polls are showing that the Conservatives have dropped quite a bit here, by at least 8 points. Most of it has gone to Andrea. Blakey dropped a little bit since the economic announcements. Okay. So she's slowly rising. And it's a little engine that could this campaign.
There's like 3 of us doing it, and at the end of the day, we just need more bodies. I mean, if I could be going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I would, but that's impossible.
You're still work for a living, too.
Yes, I'm still working full time, and training for half marathons. So.
Some might say that running for office isn't that different from training for a marathon. And for Richardson-Lipon, who spends her days working as an audiologist, this local football game is a great way to make contact.
This is Andrews running in Elmwood-Transcona.
Hi. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Julie. Nice to meet you. Hi, sweetie.
And this is Madeline.
Hi, Madeline.
You can't vote for her. You got to vote for her mother. Okay?
The major issues are, childcare is one of them. The middle class, how we haven't had sort of a pay raise, so to speak, in the past almost decade, that kind of thing, and just in the environment. Those are all major issues. But then also what we can do locally. It's federal, yes, but how we can bring that down to the local level. I believe that the economy is such a hot issue right now with all 3 parties, and just by the fact that Mr. Trudeau has said that he's not going to promise a balanced budget because you can't without knowing the full picture. To me, that's real leadership, because he's not promising something that he can't follow through on, and he's just being honest. And that's what another thing that Canadians are wanting: honesty and true leadership.
You're the only woman running in this riding?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
It gives me a lot of pleasure to be able to be a woman in politics. We need more women, first of all, in politics, and being able to show that yes, you can, be working full time and be a mother and a wife and all that comes with it, but still be able to make a change. You don't need to rely on sort of that old school mentality of what it was, because we're changing it.
But some old school techniques still apply. That includes a relentless door-knocking campaign.
My strategy is going door to door. It's the traditional way of getting my name out there, going to as many community events, taking part in as many community events that I am able to, and using social media to the best of our ability. We're a grassroots campaign, and so it's just really relying on word of mouth.
So how long have you been canvassing?
We've been canvassing since we started hitting it hard January, February of this year.
And how's it been going?
It's been going really good.
What are you hearing at the door?
Most people are undecided, which is a good thing. But then there's a lot of Liberal support too, especially in the newer areas. It's not traditionally as strongly NDP as it has been.
But it has its frustrations.
No, yeah, there's no one home. Like, this is crazy. This is usually we get like 1 or 2.
So we just want to pass out the brochures and ask if we count on your support.
We already support somebody else.
And there are other obstacles.
You don't live in the riding.
No, I do not.
And is that hurting you in any way?
No, it's not hurting me in any way. It just takes a lot of explanation. Basically, I don't live in the riding, but I feel that where you live doesn't define your devotion to the community. I'm a working middle-class woman, just like the constituents, and I feel that I can best represent them regardless of my address.
At this point, you are rising a little bit in the polls from where you had been. One poll suggests that the Conservatives are at 33%, the NDP at 40%, and Liberal, you, at 19%, and yet that was a 10% not long ago, so you have risen from 10% to 19%. Where are you taking those votes from?
I'm going to venture a guess and say the Conservatives, just because we've had a few phone calls where they have, from constituents where Conservatives have put up signs, and then the homeowner has taken the sign down and called my campaign to put up a Liberal sign. So that's where I'm going to assume where we're getting strength.
But this observer says those gains won't be enough.
Well, the Liberals won't really play much of a role. If the Liberals are very strong, the danger for the NDP is that they can split the anti-Conservative vote and let Mr. Todt go up the middle and be re-elected. That was a part of what happened in the last election campaign. The Liberal votes that didn't go to the NDP allowed the Conservative candidate to win. In this election campaign, I don't think we're going to see that. The NDP seems to be coming on strong, and they can win this riding despite the presence of a fairly sizable Liberal vote share.
Daniel Blakey's team isn't alone in trying to secure a win. It's likely to get some unsolicited support from Lead Now, an independent advocacy organization determined to oust the Conservatives from power.
So we're asking people if they'd consider voting together in the upcoming election in order to defeat the Conservatives in their riding.
Together, how do you mean that?
So because the vote was split between the NDP, Liberals, and Greens in this riding, the Conservative candidate was elected with less than the majority of the vote.
What can I do? I'm one person.
So exactly.
That's where we come in.
That's where we come in. So we can provide you with information. We have people signing up on our
So we're asking people.
here.
We're asking people to sign our Vote Together pledge, which says that we agree to vote with people across Canada to defeat the Harper Conservatives by voting for the best electable non-Conservative candidate in this riding.
Well, I'm just an interested senior who wishes things would be different, but can't do too much about it.
Would you be interested in signing our pledge and receiving more information about how you can use your vote to make change?
A difference, yeah.
We have been working in key swing ridings across Canada, Elmwood-Transcona being one of them, and we have been knocking on doors, finding the people who are those progressive voters and do want to see change in Canada, are ready to see the Harper Conservatives move on.
Erin Keating is the Elmwood-Transcona team lead with Lead Now. She wants constituents to vote strategically.
And we are asking them to pledge to vote for the candidate who has the best chance of beating the Conservatives in the next election. So at this point, we have not actually defined who that is. We've done one poll in that area, and it shows that the NDP are in the lead, but we realize that that could change at any time, so we will be doing additional polling. Ultimately, we are bringing together the progressive parties, being the NDP, the Liberals, and the Green votes, to stop the vote splitting, which has allowed the Conservatives to gain 100% of the power in this country with only 39% of the votes.
Look, I'm aware of Lead Now, and they can do the work that they feel they need to do. I just find it very ironic and interesting that the chair here in Manitoba is very, very closely affiliated with the NDP party, so they can say they're not affiliated. Come on, we're not naive, we're not foolish, and go out there and say that they have no political affiliation.
Do you think they're going to hurt you in this campaign?
I don't believe so, because I believe people see through what they're trying to do. You know, it's interesting that they talk about that they're there for democracy, and that they're the ones actually are going out there trying to some degree, pervert it by saying, well, you know, don't vote what you really believe in, but vote this way. Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Good. Hey, thanks so much for the great work you're doing here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Lawrence Tote is checking in at this community center that's holding a food program.
So we have some pre-made bags. Okay. If people are in a hurry and they're in a rush.
So you've got some grapes and some
grapes
and some peppers and some pears and peaches
and Blakey is listening to seniors and their concerns.
I'm running. I mean, I've been involved with politics my whole life long, but I chose to run now because of the sense of urgency around getting rid of the Harper government. And we've had 10 years of Harper government now, and what I'm hearing on the doorstep of what we know in the NDP is that the plan, as promised, isn't working. We'd like to form a government. We'd like the kind of Canadian political dialogue to be around how do we better solve some of these problems instead of are we going to bother trying to solve them at all and just let Canadians fend for themselves. So I hope that gives you a bit of a sense of why it is that I'm running and why I'm running now. And I think from here we could just go to questions.
I've been to many reserves in Manitoba, and we have a number of reserves that are in third world conditions, and it's absolutely appalling. What would an NDP government do to address these issues?
Because I am Métis myself, and so murdered and missing Aboriginal women has got to be right at the top of the agenda. Mm-hmm. We have to do something about that. Water, access to water. How about some roads?
Mm-hmm. And there has been for a while now a clear commitment to call and inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women within the first 100 days of government. And there's some good work on permanent roads being done by the NDP government here now to try and give access to those First Nations to do the economy.
Through all these encounters, Blakey says it's important to stay grounded.
What advice have you gotten from your father?
Well, I think the biggest lesson that I've learned from my dad, or the things that he's most likely to tell you, is just to be straightforward with people and to not promise things. There's a temptation sometimes that there's pressure. People are really passionate about a certain issue. There's a pressure to want to please, but I think he was well respected for being a straight shooter and not committing to things that he knew he couldn't deliver on. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that honesty actually is the best policy in politics.
And despite a grueling and very long campaign, the candidates remain positive.
What do you think is going to happen on Election Day?
What do I think is going to happen in my riding? Well, Liberals are going to win.
We're obviously hoping for a win. We think it's there. It's just a matter of being sure to remind people on Election Day to be sure to go out and vote.
On Election Day, I believe we're going to be able to stand at the end of the day and say we ran a successful campaign and are able to continue representing the community.
For CPAC, I'm Kenneth Bell in Elmwood-Transcona.